Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB Bikini Pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. This episode has also been recorded in video format, so you can watch the conversation unfold on YouTube at celestial_fit. Today, we are speaking with an athlete from New Zealand who currently works in IT while she earns her certification as a personal trainer. She started competing in July of 2018, and her first show kicked off with first in Open and Novice, which sparked her desire to go on and continue to take nothing but first place finishes, heading into her overall win and pro card in 2020. She went on to make her pro debut in December of 2021, where she placed fourth and is now gearing up to come to the States to compete in 2023. I'm so excited to just hear about this woman's story and honestly share with you guys what her process has been, because it's been really cool to just see her progress over the years as well. So Aimee Jacobs, how are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. It's really nice to be here. I'm real excited for this. So
Oh,
yeah.
me too. I'm so happy you're here. You were a recommended guest by some listeners, so
Oh,
I always
that's
love
exciting.
that. Yeah, it's very exciting because then I'm
It's
like,
very
oh, that
flattering.
yes, it's so nice. Like I love seeing people light up knowing that others want to hear their story, because I know you've got a great story to share and it goes so much deeper than the stage. And before we get into that, I do like to kick off the episode by asking if there's anything you do or think about, or maybe a ritual you have right before your heel hits the stage.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. For me, it's like I just have to remind myself that I've got it. Like I've done everything that's necessary to get to this point. I'm not a very confident person, so I just chuck my headphones on and I try to just focus on what I've got to do and just, yeah, believe in myself, I guess.
Wow, I would have no idea that you're not a confident person.
It's like a mask, I guess, in a way.
Yeah.
Bodybuilding's definitely been the thing that has made me more confident as a person. But it's definitely still a massive process for me.
Yeah, well, getting on stage is a huge like exposure to needing to turn on that confidence.
Yeah, definitely. But it kind of helps that you can't really see anyone.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, it definitely is. And that's something that I'm going to be working on leading into my first international competition is that confidence, that bringing a real confidence rather than kind of what I bring at the moment, which is a bit of anxious confidence. So it
Mm.
is a bit of a show, but I'm definitely working on bringing out that's my place. That's where I'm supposed to be. I've worked towards this, and yeah.
When you say you're not a very confident person, do you mean it in the way of like there's a lack of belief or empowerment, or what does that mean that you're working on specifically?
Um, so it's quite, yeah, it's just getting real into the deep stuff. But I as a child, my parents got divorced really early. The situation that led them to actually break up was caused by me as a child, so I blamed myself. And then when I was about 10 years old, I was actually sexually abused by my cousin, and my father's side of the family didn't believe me. And so as a child, of course, you're always wanting to the approval of your family and your loved ones. And I think that's where my confidence really broke down, was that I had been abused and they weren't believing me, and they were still putting me around that person, even though I had restraining orders. And so, yeah, it's just had a roll-on effect where I guess I've constantly been looking for people's approval. And yeah, I mean, that comes right into my adult life, but I understand it, and I've been trying to work on it. But it is a constant battle of always wondering what people think of me, or just things like that. So I never felt good enough, I guess, in a way, that I was treated like that as a child. And of course, you wonder how people could treat you that way when you're only a child. And so, yeah, I guess that's bled into a lot of my relationships and things as a teen, and then as an adult. And so that's where my confidence really had been broken down.
I commend you for talking about that and sharing that. It was something I was hoping we would talk about, like the making of Aimee and these different parts of your life that play a role. And you said early on, bodybuilding is a source of building that confidence. And
Yeah.
has it changed how you see yourself, or maybe given you more of that like self-reliance?
Yeah, it definitely has. In the last few years since I started bodybuilding, it's definitely made me look at myself more. So obviously I already knew that I, had trauma, and that certain triggers that happen because of that. But bodybuilding, because it is such a constant improvement of yourself, I really take that in all aspects, not just my body and my physical appearance, but also my mental. And so I just wanted to be a better person. And so that really meant looking at how I reacted to situations and really trying to bring that out. So I think that the physical appearance definitely helped with that, like the fact that I am very grateful for the body that I have, and that I can do what I do. And so that just catapulted me to looking into internally to, I guess, bring out that confidence. And yeah, it's still a work in progress. Like I said, like my stage presence on my previous shows has been more of an anxious confidence, but now I'm really excited to try and bring out the actual confidence that I have and should have. So yeah.
Yeah, and you don't hear many stories of sexual abuse as a child because it's generally like kept inside and not talked about, and people are ashamed for it because they're told by others that it didn't happen, or oh, we don't believe you as you experience. So you start to keep it in and you don't want to express it because you're like, well, who's gonna believe me? And I imagine that that must have led to some unhealthy, or maybe you found some healthy coping skills prior as well, but how did you deal with that, having no support around you from your dad's side at least?
um Probably not in a very healthy way. I predominantly don't have much to do with them. So like I said, I had been to the police because of my parents' messy divorce. They basically blamed it and put it on my mum, saying that my mum had told me to say it, which is absolutely not true. And it happened multiple times. And then he also stalked me as a teen. So I had these restraining orders, but I would still be taken around him. But again, like as a child, you don't go and be like, oh, I've got to call the police on my family. Like that just doesn't cross your mind. So one of the coping mechanisms, which is not a healthy coping mechanism, was that I did stop eating. It was something that I could control. So as a teen, I was taken to like an eating disorder place so that I wasn't like anorexic, but it was moving that way. So I was really fussy with my food. I wasn't eating at school. I would have to be seated down with a teacher to ensure that I ate my lunch. At home, my mum would do things like make foods that I actually enjoyed. So I didn't really like breakfast foods. So she would make me like spag bowl for breakfast, or I would eat a bowl of broccoli because I'm obsessed with broccoli. But as a teen, I did get taken to an eating disorder place to, I guess, almost like show me what path I was on and to try and get me away from that path, which I think did help. And but that was certainly my coping mechanism. Now, that's not an issue. I guess that partially, some could argue, feeds into bodybuilding, that sense of control, of being able to, everything that you do has to be, it's up to you to do it. So I have control over my diet. I mean, other than my coach telling me what my calories and things are, but it's up to me to follow that. Same with my exercise, my cardio, my water intake, everything is all on me. So in a way, maybe bodybuilding's a sense of my coping mechanism, but I think it's definitely channeled more into a healthy way. Not to say that bodybuilding's necessarily healthy, but there's definitely worse habits and hobbies that you could have. But I definitely think that was one of my worst coping mechanisms. My mum always, she's just like my rock. She is my everything. She has stood by me through everything and just gone to battle for me. So she is, she's just like my everything. But she would always, to help me, she would draw these pretty pictures for me and write these little sayings on it. And so it would say, like, if it's to be, it's up to me. So if the day was supposed to be a good day, it was up to me to make it a good day and not, I guess, ponder on things that happened or things like that. So that was definitely a positive thing that she did. I guess that's really the only, I don't know, there's probably other negative things that have come about of it, but she's great.
Yeah, your mom sounds absolutely amazing to have gone to battle for you and to make sure you felt good and empower you and support you in that when others weren't. Have you maintained that close relationship with her since?
Yeah. But yeah, I don't have a lot to do with that side of the family. I still occasionally see my cousin today, especially if it's something like my Oma passed away. So I wasn't going to not let him go to the funeral, and just things like that. So as an adult, I know what I'm walking into now. So I know that he'll be there. I always check, and so I can mentally prepare myself and just stay away. Just things like that. But it's definitely a strained sort of relationship on that sort of side. They don't necessarily feel it. They're a little bit sort of oblivious, but I certainly do. And I avoid most stuff with that side. So, it is what it is. Like, they say family is like blood and things, but for me, it's sort of like you can pick and choose whether or not you have them in your life.
Absolutely. Just because you're born into it doesn't mean you have to stay in it.
Yeah.
That's amazing that you were able to take such a perspective at this point in your life and set such healthy boundaries that in the past weren't honored, but now you can honor. And you had mentioned the word control before when it came to food and how bodybuilding can kind of be representative of that, but it's a much healthier way because instead of it being like starving our body, we're fueling our body. Now, of course, towards the end, sometimes it can be, as you said, not as healthy, but it's like one of those sports where it's like majority of the time training like an athlete, you're feeling like an athlete and you're working towards a goal. And that can be just really life-giving as opposed to prior, it felt like this is all that I can do to control for myself.
Yeah. And like, as a child, it's not something that you don't consciously really know you're doing it. It's just that coping mechanism. But yeah, definitely as an adult and competing, yeah, it's so much better, and fueling your body is so much better. It feels so much better, and the right way. Like, you can fuel your body with McDonald's, but you're not going to feel good. And once you make that switch to having like that proper amount of protein and things, everything just changes.
So
So
true. And that
yeah,
consistency like reveals how you felt before. Like you can feel fine day to day, and then you start taking on a healthier lifestyle pattern, whether it's nutrition or movement or relationships, and suddenly something shifts that you're like, I didn't realize how bad it was until I actually found something better.
exactly. It's really crazy. And like, you can even see that like post show, if you like splurge a bit on like food,
Yeah,
you just want to get back on diet.
exactly.
And I even hate saying diet because it's just what I eat day to day. So it's not, that's one like pet peeve, is saying diet too often when it's really not, I guess.
Yeah. Well, technically, you're right. Like, diet is what you eat every day, but it's because of diet culture that it's been looked down upon to utilize that word or encourage a diet. But a
Yeah,
diet is just what you choose to eat.
exactly. I remember at work, some people would be like, I don't understand how you eat this. And I'm like, you don't understand how I eat some protein, some carbs, and some vegetables. I'm like, what do you eat for dinner?
Right.
And I'm just like, it's just that I choose to eat this at random times during the day.
Yes. And in a amount that serves my goals right now.
Exactly.
Which actually, I'm curious how your improvement seasons look compared to actually, I think you went straight through a lot of competitions. You had an improvement season though, and did you have one before your 2020 season?
Um, I think so. There's definitely times where I put on about 10 kgs
Yeah.
of weight, which is, I think, quite a happy, maybe like a little bit more than I would like, but a happyish weight for my sort of off season. I don't really think that as a bikini athlete, you necessarily always have to have such a big off season and put on a lot of like weight. I think I'm certainly lucky in the fact that I don't have a lot of muscle to put on, so I
Nice.
can be a bit leaner. But this last year, I certainly didn't have like the best off season, so that was mentally quite tough on me, and my body reflected that. But prior to my pro debut, there definitely was a period off. That was definitely a better off season. I was on track with food and things like that. You know, had the odd meal off here and there, as you do. Uh,
Hmm.
but I think that was also a really hard prep because of the number of lockdowns, or like um, times that the show had to be moved. Um, but yeah, definitely when I'm in an off season, it's definitely about 10 kgs is my weight, over stage weight. Um, I don't even really see it as an off season. I just keep doing what I'm doing. It's just that the food changes.
Yeah.
You know, I put in just as much effort with my workouts as I do leading into a show, and when I haven't got anything planned. I definitely find it really hard when I don't have any, like, a show in sight. But you just got to keep going. It's what I love to do. So I don't know. It's
You had
fun.
made a post that really resonated with me. It was just one sentence. It was like, I'm always thinking about the next competition. And so I got to thinking, and you just mentioned it. It's hard sometimes to be away from the stage. So, what is it that you do to emotionally and mentally support yourself through an improvement season or through that time away that helps you to stay focused without like fixating on being there?
I definitely find it hard. I won't really think about it that much at the time. I'm just sort of like living my day to day, but it's just that constant reminder that what you're putting in now will benefit you later. And even without a show in sight, you sort of also have to think that this is still improving your health. You know, your lifting weights is so good for later on in life. So yeah, I think for me, I just try and remind myself that it's a bigger picture. And I know that it can be really, really hard, especially with no show in sight. Like in New Zealand this year, there is no pro shows.
Is that why you're
So,
coming to America?
well, yes and no.
Okay.
I there's a within the pros here in New Zealand, there's always sort of like this underlying murmur that in order to be considered an actual IFBB Pro from New Zealand, you have to compete overseas, because otherwise, what is the point? So,
Interesting.
yeah, people won't necessarily say it out loud, but you can always hear it in their stories and stuff, the sort of tone that you're not a pro unless you compete overseas. So, I mean, it is what it is, right? Like if you get your pro card in New Zealand, it's so far away from everything else that everything else becomes so much more expensive when you do go overseas. So it's not an easy thing. Like flights, you know, the having to stay in hotels, and where do you find a rice cooker? You got to go buy one, you know, just everything like costs. So for us to go overseas and compete is quite a big expense. Plus, why would I not want to see how I stack up against the US? People often ask me, they're like, why don't you just go to Aussie? And I'm like, yeah, but as great and as amazing as the Aussie girls look, when you compare how they do on the US stage, sometimes you can't really, like, you know how when you come 16th, everyone after that is 16th.
Yes.
It's like you don't know where they placed and things. So I don't think I would might be amazing in the US or anything, but rather than going and comparing myself to the girls in Aussie who maybe aren't doing quite as well yet in the US, I'd much rather just go see how I stack up against the US and get the real feedback, because that is the epitome of bodybuilding. It's the US. It's like not Europe. It's not like anywhere else. It's definitely the US. You want to get in on that circuit and see how you go. So that's why everyone wants the US. Everyone wants Olympia, and you just got to go straight to the source. And Hawaii seems like a really great place to try.
Yes, of all the places to do a show in the US, Hawaii's awesome.
Yeah, and it's really cool because so many of the New Zealand pros are going. Well, not so many, but there's I think 4 of us going.
Wow.
And so it's just going to be so much fun because it's going to be, not only are we going to be there and like it's going to be very different. You're going to be on stage and no one's going to be shouting my name. Like absolutely no one. There is not going to be anyone there really that I know from anywhere. So that's going to be very difficult, but it's going to be really awesome to have some New Zealand girls there who, you know, we can just help and support each other and just have a really fun time. Like I don't even feel, I'm not sitting here being like, oh, I've got to beat them. You know, I'm just so excited to spend time with them and spend time with them doing something that we all really love and are so passionate about, and we all understand it. You know, you can talk so much about bodybuilding to people who haven't competed, but they really don't understand completely until they go and do what we do. So it's going to be really fun.
That's going to be amazing. And I find what you say so fascinating because, like, I've always had the American perspective because I live here, grew up
Yes.
here, started bodybuilding here. And I think about the competitors. We see this every year with the Olympia, especially. Like, I think about the competitors who are overseas and how difficult it can be for them to just afford to get here to compete in these shows and qualify. So you guys are qualified to qualify, right? You're in the pro league, you're able to step
Yeah.
on the Olympia stage should you qualify. But to get to the stages and have as many opportunities to qualify as Americans do, it's different. And I've always thought, I don't know if it's about the expansion in New Zealand or other countries that needs to improve because America just has so many shows.
Yes, they have so many. Yeah, New Zealand does not. Like, we might have one pro show a year, if that. And I think it's expensive to put on a pro show. And then especially during COVID, where our borders were shut, it just wasn't really feasible. So, it happens, but yeah, it's definitely exciting to go overseas for it and get
What
the real vibe of it all.
Yes. Like that's I was actually curious like what you think is different about the vibe in America or the experience or the actual journey here compared to where you are.
I think it's massive. The fitness industry over in the US is so massive, and there's like pockets of it here. And so, you go over there and they'll have so many like fitness brands and everything. We don't have stuff like that. We don't have like stalls for different brands around or anything. You literally go to a show and you just walk in, sit down, watch the show, leave. There's no fitness sort of expo attached. There's
Mm.
no like clothing that you can go and like buy for IFBB or anything. So I'm really excited to see the scale of it as well. And people that literally are living and breathing it every single day. So that, or they even just have like sponsorships that allow them to do that every day, and that's it. We just
Yeah.
don't have that here. So will be really fascinating. And again, like really fascinating to see how we stack up against US girls, because they are incredible and it's so different and varying. Yeah, I'm really nervous as well, though. I've already had a nightmare. I've had a nightmare about going on stage. So
What
we'll
happened in it?
see. I was, it wasn't even me walking on. It's like I was watching myself, and that was it.
Yeah.
It was just enough to deem it a nightmare. It was just like this anxiety of having to go up on stage in front of a lot of people that I don't know. And I think, again, also just the size of your shows compared to
Yeah.
ours. So, yeah, that's fine. Got a lot of time to work on that.
Yeah, like I went to the Jay Cutler Classic in Las Vegas this past
Wow.
a couple months ago,
Yeah.
and it wasn't a pro show. And there were tons of people there. Like the fitness community here, we just love it. Like I came in from Arizona, to
Yeah.
go watch. And that's and when you're at the Arnold or at the Olympia, you're like sardines walking through the expo. And even the regional shows or muscle contest shows, like you go there and you're like, oh my gosh, there's so many people because even if it's not all fans of bodybuilding, you have a lot of family and friends, but you do have just fans or people in the industry who follow the
Yeah.
sport or who want to show face, so they're involved. And you'll have like you'll have Miss Bikini Olympia there walking around, or you'll
Yes.
have like these people who
That's
have won
crazy.
so many titles, and you're like, they're just here. They're like my one of my clients who's in my community, she was just at the Shredded Cheddar event. She's like, I just had dinner with Ronnie Coleman. I'm like, well,
What?
you
That's
what?
crazy.
Right. It's like, and that's in Wisconsin. It's like, let's go. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure. Don't quote me on that, but I'm 90% sure it is. She's in Wisconsin anyway. But yeah, I was like, that is so we take that for granted here, though. I'll admit that. Like and I'm really glad you're bringing this perspective onto the show too, because I think Americans look at it like it needs to be bigger, it needs to be better, it needs to be more amazing, which it does, and it will continue to grow. But also like, wow, when you look back on like the old Generation Iron movie when they're just standing on a pedestal
Yes.
in like the old high school, and you're like, how
I
have we come
know.
this
It's
far?
crazy. But it's like, it's amazing. It's so cool that the fitness industry is so big, because it needs to be. It needs to be bigger. People need to take better care of themselves. And it's the majority of the world can't lose weight. They just can't stick to a diet, can't, anything. And I am so fortunate and lucky that I know I can. Like, I can gain weight, but I know that I can lose it. And I just think the fitness industry needs to get to like everywhere, but in the right kind of way, like not doing the Stairmaster will grow your booty, or cutting out all sorts of carbs and everything will make you lose all the weight, and you're not going to like gain it back instantly. So yeah, I would love to see, especially in New Zealand, I'd love to see the fitness industry even bigger here. It'd be really exciting, and just more brands here. But it is a lot harder to get stuff here, I guess, because we're so far away from everyone.
Definitely. Well, it's so nice to hear that perspective and think about those things, and also knowing that it's valued and it's appreciated, and we can spread that and bring that awareness to others. And like you said, we're a portion of the population that's not only doing what most cannot do, but doing it in at an extreme level. And I
Yes.
think it's becoming very popularized, like especially with the introduction of the classic physique division. And then you have the influencers who rose in that division, like Sebum, for example. Like, his influence has brought so much more mainstream attention to the bodybuilding world. And then you had like
Yeah.
the different Netflix series. And so when this happens, like, you start to notice like everyone wants to be a TikTok fitness influencer or a fitness influencer on Instagram. Like, that's actually really awesome because it shows that they're admiring the physique. You see people who don't even compete or want to compete, and they're posing and they're
Yes.
mastering the art. It's like so
Yeah.
beautiful, the influence we can have as healthy leaders in the industry.
It is definitely, and I completely agree. But I do like when people, I do have a lot of women who will come up to me and be like, "Oh, I really wish I could look like you, blah blah blah." And I turn around and I'm like, "But you don't need to go to the extremes that I do. You don't need to go into like drinking as much water as I do, caring about your salt intake. You can do roughly what I do, but in a healthier way. Just if you're wanting to lose some weight, just note down what food you eat and then cut back a little. You don't need to go and weigh everything. So as much as I do, I love the fitness industry, and I don't encourage women to necessarily do the extreme of bodybuilding unless they're actually into doing bodybuilding. If it's
Correct.
just for like the influencer kind of thing or a bucket list tick, then maybe don't do it necessarily. It's
Yeah,
expensive as well. So
it's
especially with the,
expensive, and there's red flags that come from it. You start seeing yourself and food differently. Like, even though you can work around that and through it, you can't deny that it happens. And I totally agree with you. Like, what we do is that extreme level of something that so many people can do at a basic. Like, we've mastered the basics and then we took it to an extreme, and we can help
yeah,
guide people to master the basics and see like it. And also, there's so many unfortunately jaded competitors and bodybuilders who have left the sport because they thought that it had to be done in a more extreme way. And
yes,
it's like that also makes like that taints the image when there's so many competitors who are successful with like flexible dieting or extended improvement seasons, and not endless hours of cardio even through those improvement seasons.
exactly. And I really admire people. Like, I'm personally not one that really does a flexible dieting, like especially leading into a show. I just prefer being told what to eat and doing that. Like, I mentally enjoy that better.
Yeah.
Um, but I really admire people that can do flexible eating. There's a lady here in New Zealand, Cyan Bennett. She does WBFF though, and
Mhm.
she does so much flexible dieting, and I admire it so much. And I'm like, damn, that looks delicious. But yeah, I just can't do that. And but I just enjoy my meals anyway. So why
Yeah.
change it?
Absolutely. Yeah. And you mentioned earlier something that I think I want to just repeat, which was that your improvement season doesn't vary that much from your prep. And the reason I ask a lot of competitors on their show about that is because of that reason. Like, I want other competitors to see that it doesn't have to be this huge pendulum. It really can be about finding an appreciation for the lifestyle outside of the physique. You brought up your health in the long term, how you feel mentally, and then what you're putting into your body and how that much really ends up mattering to you and how good you feel.
Yeah.
So you did mention though it's hard to stay away from the stage, which got me thinking about when you had to take time off after your surgery and how
Yes.
that affected you. Like, how did you feel not being able to train and stay on that routine?
So hard. Yeah, there was multiple things feeding into this feeling at that time though. So yeah, like I mentioned, leading into the pro debut, I think we got 4 weeks out, maybe 4 times. So our prep was extended maybe 3 months because of COVID, essentially. So at the time, I didn't really worry too much about it. But looking back, I think it played a massive part into after the show and after I had my surgery. I was kind of like, okay, yeah, I have to relax. I can't do workouts and things like that. That's fine. I tried to like accept it, but so I just had my surgery and then I got COVID. Not like just, it was maybe like 10 days after I caught COVID. On that same day, I was called up by my job at the time and was told I was being made redundant. And I was also told that my grandmother had terminal cancer. So I was stuck in my house for 7 days because that was our rule at the time. You can't go out if you had COVID. I couldn't exercise. And I'm not going to lie, I have a Oculus, like a virtual reality. I just played Beat Saber and I did some day drinking. And that was my coping mechanism at that time. I'm not proud of it, but it is what it is. And yeah, it was a really tough time, like not being able to go and do the thing that helps you mentally while you're going through a redundancy as well. Just did not help. It was not fun at
And
all.
can you explain what going redundant means?
So in New Zealand, it's a bit different to the US. We have to go through a process of where they basically have to give you a proposal of what they're wanting, the changes they're wanting to make at your job. And they have to allow time for feedback and then they make the decision. So I got told that my role was going to be disestablished. And then they went away and gave a proposal of what that looks like to the rest of the company so that they could give feedback, like impact on how that would affect their jobs by not having my role. And then I was put on garden leave. So garden leave is just random leave. You just don't have to be at work. But they also couldn't, if they were telling me that my job was disestablished because they didn't need it, then technically there's not anything for me to do. So
Right.
I went on garden leave and then, yeah, I think it was maybe like 10 days later or something, they confirmed that they were going to be getting rid of my role. And then I got 1 week's redundancy pay and I got to keep my laptop and that was it.
Wow.
Yeah, it
That's not
was
very much.
rough.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. But I guess the garden leave was allowing you to be able to start looking for jobs.
Mm.
But redundancy is a very hard thing. It's mentally for anyone. I've been through restructures. I'd been through it once before that at my previous job, which was Trade Me. So Trade Me is kind of like eBay, but of New Zealand. So it's a very, very well-known Kiwi iconic company. And I had been there for several years, and it was a real family like vibe. We all knew each other. We all loved working there. We all stuck together and did what it takes to get things out onto the website and everything like that. And then to have the company come and turn around and be like, oh, we're going to be getting rid of X amount of roles was very shocking to me, because it just definitely showed that they're a business. So I'd already been through it. So I think I went through a lot of the emotions then, but I was sort of headhunted from Trade Me for my new company where I just got made redundant, and I'd only been there 3 months.
Oh no.
Yeah. So
Oh, no.
leaving a company that I really, really loved and going, taking a shot at something new after being there 8.5 years, and then being made redundant was really, really hard. Like I literally couldn't talk to anyone from the company for a long time. Yeah, I know it wasn't anything personal to them. Like they didn't decide it or do this to me. It was, beyond their control, but I couldn't. And I think it helps to grow your mental strength a lot. So yeah, as hard as that was, that definitely made having surgery and not being able to work out even harder. But at the end of the day, I think it was actually better, because I had to have like 2 weeks off where I couldn't train. And in the long run, I think it just helped the healing process better.
That's good.
Yeah, hopefully.
I just so admire your realness too. Like when you said earlier you were putting on VR headphones, day drinking, going through all of these, mental struggles. It's like there's not a lot of pros who would be willing to admit that, because they feel like they'll be judged for it, or others won't look at them the same way. It's like, I think that's a really awesome thing that you shared, because there's so many amateurs and pros who don't talk about it, but when they hear others are open, they are empowered to share their story and be open. And everything you've been talking about, it's like, it's blowing my mind that you're willing to do that. And I want to say, I appreciate you being so open and willing to talk about these challenges that so many people face day to day. Like it's not just competing. There's other things we deal with in life.
Yeah, it's definitely, I'm pretty much an open book, and it's literally because I don't want others to necessarily have to go through what I have been through.
Mm.
I don't think my story is any more special than anyone else's stories, because it's all about perspective, right? Like, yeah, okay, I've been sexually abused, but someone else has had something happen in their life, which is the biggest thing in their life. It may not seem as big to me, but that's because that's my perspective, but it doesn't dampen what's happened to them. So if people can learn from things that I do, then sure. I'm proud of where I've got to with my mental health, with the things that have happened in my life, and why would I not share that? Yeah, I'm a professional athlete, but life gets hard sometimes. And I know that as bodybuilders, we talk so much about like that consistency, that discipline, just keep going. But sometimes it's okay not to. Like sometimes you need that. But I think it's about how you go from there, how you pick yourself back up, you get back on the horse, you go and continue what you're doing. It's much better to help build that strength than just pretending that you're constantly sticking to the diet and everything, because that's not reality sometimes.
When I earned my bachelor's degree in psychology and went on to earn my clinical mental health counseling degree and even become a national certified counselor, I knew I wanted to bridge the gap between competitors and mental health professionals. Too often, athletes are told that they can't compete and have a healthy relationship with food or their body, and I absolutely disagree with that. I have helped thousands of women globally to build more than just a body by combining psychology, personal development, mindfulness, and my signature peace through growth process. If you are struggling with the post-show blues, or you're struggling with adherence to your prep, or any aspect of your relationship with food, your body image, or overall commitment to your goals, I have tons of resources available for you over at www.celestial.fit. Things like a free food relationship coaching series, free post-show blues coaching series, a full competitor card deck with statements to use for affirmations, journal prompts to go through, and even action and behavior changes that you can implement right away. I really believe that by prioritizing the inner work and developing a healthy mindset, competitors can have a more fulfilling journey. And I know the mental side of this sport is really key to establishing longevity, ending the yo-yoing from show to show, and really establishing goals that span well beyond the stage. If you're looking for that support, head over to www.celestial.fit, where you can find tons of free resources or even apply to work with me. I really love that. It's just so nice because it's a breath of fresh air. And the way you put that was really beautiful too. Like, no one story is any better or any worse. It's just their story and their experience. And we each have an experience. And I think that everything you've been through and experience is going to just shed light on other people's own experiences. So in that time when you went through the surgery, you said you only had to take 2 weeks off of training, and then you're going through the redundancy. You also found out about your grandma, right?
Yeah.
It was your grandma. So how did that time frame maybe shape or influence how you moved forward from there and how you got back on the horse?
I was really excited to get back to the gym. I think I just did that. I viewed it as a good time for my body to rest. That was probably the longest rest I had had since I started competing.
Wow.
So you just view it as in, my body deserves that. It really does. My body does so much for me that I'm so grateful for. So yeah, just taking that time, even though I might not necessarily have taken it if I hadn't had COVID and things, but it deserved it. It like I said, I think it definitely helped my healing process after the surgery, because I went under the muscle, so it was a little bit more than going on top, and it would have just allowed the muscle to have a little bit more healing rather than me just going in and trying to do like laterals and things like that. My dogs keep trying to get in the room, if you can. They're like locked out.
I've heard it that once, but I haven't heard it before.
Yeah, they're just at the door. I've got it like shut. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, when you get back into the gym doing what you love, you remember it, and there's nothing like it, like again, like having that control of doing your fitness, improving towards something, and doing better every day. So it's fun. I just really love it.
It is so true. When you take a step back, it reminds you of how much you love it and how much of a positive impact it has. Like, you get sick or you get put in a situation you didn't expect to be in where you're not able to do what you wanted to do or what you're used to doing. Even like, I think COVID did reveal that to so many people, how much they love being able to go to the gym or do cardio at the gym, even like you just gain or be able to compete when you say you're going to compete. Like, a lot of our seasons were extended and it was really hard. So I think it's that perspective, as you mentioned earlier, that word I think is really key here as well. And I'm curious why you got a breast augmentation, because I remember in your post you had said you feel really confident and you're really happy, but what inspired it in the beginning?
I've always wanted one. So it had nothing to do, I mean, it helps competing, obviously, for myself. But like I said, when I was younger, because of my eating habits, I did lose a lot of breast tissue and it just never came back. So I did have bigger breasts as a younger teen, and then the eating just wiped them, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I never got them back to the size that they were. So it was just a constant thing for me that I always wanted to have breast augmentation done. And then when you start competing, as you know, it just completely disappears. Like you don't notice it at the time and you're like fine with it and you're like, but yeah, it's been so nice dieting down now and like they haven't changed. And I just feel so much more like feminine, confident. I love them. I don't know, they fit my body perfectly. Like they I don't know, they look natural. They're not like too big, they're not too small. Like you can't really, I don't think you can really tell that they are fake, other than people that had previously seen me and then they're like, oh.
Yeah.
But yeah, I that was just something that I always wanted to do. Admittedly, it definitely, hopefully, will help my shape as
That's what
well.
I was wondering, why competing, why you think it would be beneficial for your competing.
Personally, for my shape, I yeah, but also now that I went under the muscle because I do want them to look natural.
Yeah.
And that gives more of a natural look. Whereas if you go over the muscle, when you lean down, obviously the skin tightens around them and you can see them a lot more. But what I have noticed is that a lot of pros, especially like in the US, who went, I believe, over the muscle, they're actually quite far apart.
Yeah.
Like there's a massive gap.
Yeah.
And so when they're in their like front pose, it looks really good because it gives that illusion of shape. And now I'm like, oh damn, mine's not going to be like that, because I have spent so much time being like every night I wear a bra and everything to try and make sure that they stay like in a way that I want them, because I want that longevity of them looking natural, and because it wasn't just about competing. But I do realize now that it will look different to other people that I've seen. But yeah, I can clearly remember after I competed, I went back to try the breast sizes at the doctor's because I wanted to see how they would look against my lean self.
Yeah.
So I have these photos of me in my like one of my transition poses, where you're turning towards the back, but you're looking back over.
Yeah.
Just to see how the shape actually looked. And that is what made me decide to go up in size.
Interesting.
Yeah, it looked way better, the bigger one, than the smaller one. So yeah. But
That's
now I
very,
actually almost wish I would have gone bigger.
that's what I hear every woman say.
Yeah. Yeah, like I love them, but I do wish I'd gone bigger now.
Yeah,
One day.
that's so fascinating. Maybe when you're even like closer to stage, you'll be like, no, this was a good call.
Yeah, maybe, hopefully. I can't change it now. I'm happy. So
That's
yeah.
good. That's really awesome. Someone had recently asked me to ask on the show actually about the perspective of breast augmentations and competing, but I haven't had someone that I thought would be willing to talk about it. So
Oh
I
yeah.
appreciate that you did, because it is something that I think some people are sensitive to, because there's some people like myself who don't have fake breasts and who don't plan to get them. And then they
Yeah.
think maybe, is it going to affect me? Or they question it. But then there's a lot of people who don't have them and they do succeed, or it
Yes.
doesn't impact their shape.
Yeah, like Laura Lee. I mean, she looks
Right.
amazing. You can't even tell. It's just about learning how to stuff your bikini.
Yeah. Yes. My bikini is stuffed to the brim. It's
I
like I hope
know.
the nipple doesn't pop out, you know?
I know. Yeah, I stuffed my last one. But yeah, I think I went I went sort of like my same cup size with my last one, and I think I should have gone bigger because I
Hmm.
think the bigger gives the more coverage, and then you're also able to stuff it more. So I wish I had done that. Um, but yeah, I mean, you don't have to get it, like, and it shouldn't be something that disadvantages you. You have to
Right.
be comfortable, and like so many people say, you shouldn't be doing something just for competing, which is why I thought it was important to mention that I have always wanted it. Um, I do think that it helps my particular shape, but yeah, like, don't do it if you don't want it. It's literally, I never thought about it before, but since having it, I'm like, there's a foreign object in my body. It's weird. It is weird, and I'm still getting used to exercising with them and things like that. So yeah, it's definitely a weird thing.
Yeah, that's honestly my main reason because like I used to be self-conscious about being smaller. Now I am totally fine with it, love it. But my bigger thing is that I already don't like when I'm on my period or when I'm in my improvement season, they grow and I feel like they're in my way and they're not even big. That's the funny thing. So I'm like, if I did that, like how annoyed I would be probably. Whereas some people love the way it feels to always have them.
Yeah.
I like don't love it. So I think also the workout aspect, leaning on a bench a certain way, pull-ups I hear can start to feel weird. So I'm like, oh, I wonder if that would sort of like you know, the sensory pet peeves, like a microfiber cloth, for example. I
Yeah.
feel like it would bother me in that type of way. So I'm curious if you've had any of those experiences while working out where you're like, dang, I this used to feel better.
Yes. Yeah. I still haven't properly been able to do pull-ups.
Oh,
And I think it is literally because I went under the muscle, and
yeah.
my left pec is bigger than my right pec, and it's definitely more obvious now. So when I attempt to do some exercises, my pec pulls my implant.
Oh,
So it can feel, I think maybe it was partially just getting used to it, but it can feel weird, definitely weird. And I can definitely, even when I'm doing my front pose, I can feel it pull. So some of those I don't really like. And also, uh, like my right side is fine. All of my like nerves and everything are fine, but I definitely don't have the full feeling on my left. I don't know.
hmm.
It's really hard to explain. It's sort of like I can feel it, but I can't. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's weird. And yeah, like you said, like leaning on a bench, I don't think because I've got them, I like to wear like, I like to wear nice sports bras
Of
that like
course.
show them and things.
Know
But then
that.
when you're leaning on a bench and they're like pushing, you're like, oh, this is, maybe I should like cover them or something so that people aren't just randomly like staring. Um, I have seen that happen before, and I was just like, okay, like I understand I'm wearing a sports bra, but come on,
Yeah.
like I'm just trying to exercise.
Yeah,
But it's
definitely.
fine. It's you have to be fine with people staring, I guess.
Yeah, people are gonna stare regardless. I feel, they're always
Yeah.
looking. That's why one of my pet peeves too is when people are like, no one's looking at you in the gym. I'm like, a lot of the times that's true, but there are times where people are looking at you. I mean, I watch
Yeah,
people in the gym not to be like, what are they doing? I just am like,
I know.
you know, that's just what
I
happens.
admire people. I
Yes.
literally look at people, like last night, there was a girl that I've never seen at my gym, and I was like, whose butt is that? And I was like, oh my God, she's got really great glutes. And then in my head, I'm like,
Yeah.
do I go tell her? Because I'm like, that's such a nice, if someone came up to me and said, you've got great glutes, I would be over the moon, like
Right.
so happy. And so I'm like, why would I not go tell this person that I don't actually know? But it's a nice thing to
Yes,
do. Might make their day.
exactly.
But I admire so many people just, like I don't really like look at people like walking down the street and be like, oh my God, they're so hot. I'm like, damn, look at their calves. I'm
Yeah,
like, it's just a very different
exactly.
and I actually don't, I'm really oblivious to people if they are looking at me at the gym. Like my partner has noticed it before and he'll say, and I'm like, I didn't see. Like I
Yeah.
didn't notice. It's very rare for me to notice someone looking. So um but yeah, that's the thing, is that people do go to the gym and they worry that people are going to be looking at them funny and things. And I'm like, everyone in that place is trying to improve themselves. They're worrying about themselves.
Hmm.
So you go do you
Exactly.
and you'll be fine.
Yeah, and if they're looking, like it's not like most people aren't staring for a long time. They will look. You're walking into a room, they're gonna want to maybe be aware of their surroundings, right?
Yes.
But it's rare. Like I've definitely had, the odd man out just staring me down, and I can pick up on that. But like you said, usually you're focused, usually I'm focused, usually everyone's just doing their thing. And
Yeah.
that's why sometimes when you're in the gym and one of your friends walks in, it's hard to get their attention because you're both just there to work out unless you go over there and engage, like you pointed out with the woman you were admiring last night. But anyway, I want to talk about your pro debut and this experience because you went into your pro debut after all first place wins, which is so amazing. And I was curious if you had any expectations or what were your thoughts going into your pro debut? And you did amazing at your pro debut as well. So,
Thank you.
what were you thinking going into it?
Um, I mean, I think it's a little bit, I'm slightly gonna swear. I think it's a little bit like
Okay.
bullshit if you are talking about bodybuilding and going and saying that you don't want to win. Like, I understand the whole you versus you, and it is you versus you in terms of everything that you can do. But every person goes into a show, I think, wanting to win. You have to aim high, right? Like, yeah. So, I want to win. I want to do as best as I can. I was extremely happy with the changes from when I won my pro card to my pro debut. And so I think that made my placing a lot easier for me. But also when you win your pro card, you realize that you went from the top and now you're at the bottom. You literally start over again. And you realize there's so many pros out there and they are so incredible. And so you realize that you just got to go in because you enjoy it. You got to do it because you love it. You love the journey. You love seeing the results. So that's what I kind of did. And I was nervous going up against people that have either been my posing coach or are my friends or because New Zealand's so small, it really was, everyone.
Interesting.
And I think Kate Mickelson, or actually she's not Kate Mickelson now, Kate Carroll, she got married to Frank. She is incredible. She is just amazing and I admire her so much. And when I had won my first show, I was going to go and do nationals because I had decided that I wanted to start aiming for a pro card. And she just came out of the blue. She'd never competed before, so she was very similar to me, and she took out the Wellington show, and then she came to the same show and she won the pro card.
Oh.
And I found that so incredibly hard, so hard, because she is gorgeous. She is stunning. She has a good following on Instagram. She is just a very genuine, lovely person. So I barely talked to her for a long time. And it was just due to that feeling of that she is just so much better than me. And after I'd won my pro card and we were going to be doing the pro show, her particular area in New Zealand, Hamilton, was in lockdown. So she was not able to go to the gym to do proper workouts, and she was really struggling with that. And somehow we connected over that. And I admitted how, I was like, I'm so sorry. I have never really talked to you because of these feelings, because you won and things like that. And now she's probably one of my best friends. Like,
Aww.
it's just incredible. So I was so
Wow.
happy. Like, she was in lockdown and I would just message and just be like, no, you got to keep working out. You've got to keep going. And so we were like prepping together and eventually got to step on stage together. So
Aww.
that was also just so amazing. And her and Frank came and stayed at my house because the pro show was in Wellington. And I'd messaged Frank and I was like, oh, what's her favorite lollies? And I'm just going to stock up some stuff so that she's got it. And so I had that waiting for her in her room. And that's just the kind of like relationship we had, is that I'm quite a giving person, and there's not often where people reciprocate that as well, and she does. And so I really like to foster that, like, ensure to keep that friendship up, because it's so important to have those kinds of people, and her and Frank are really amazing. And so that was also the real amazing thing going into that show, was that I was doing it with her, which I'll be doing Hawaii with her too.
I was gonna ask if she's one of the girls coming. That's so cool.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
Wow.
But
I love
yes,
that story. How did you get the courage to tell her like where your head was at?
I think you get to an age where you're just like, screw it. Like, there's no point in hiding things from people. You just say it, because if you don't, then I don't know. I think honesty is best. And so if you're raw with people, then they see that vulnerability and can connect with it. So there was also just recognizing that in yourself, that was those were the feelings that I was having. I don't admire it, but it is what it is. And so, yeah, admitting that it has to be done if you want to move forward, I guess.
Such a nice growth opportunity too, to then foster that type of friendship or bond after that. And my best friend is like, I'm like you. It's like I feel I'm always giving and not receiving a ton. I think I do a lot through this community, but like my best friend is like, I feel like we're always just trying to like outgive each other to each other, and not even
That's great.
intentionally. It just feels
Yes.
like that because we care so much, but we would never define it that way. But when you said that, I was like, that reminds me of her. And we had became friends after both speaking at an event. And
Oh,
I was so like anti getting into a friendship because I was so worried about losing friends, like because we were pretty young. And then she's like, let's just have a business call every week. And then of course over the years it's turned into like the greatest friendship ever. And
that's so cool.
yeah, it is awesome. And so when you said like fostering that relationship as well, like I think if there's people listening and you're giving up on friendship or you haven't had luck with it, like there's like a soulmate friend for you, and like fostering it
Yeah.
is really important and making that effort. I even have friends
Yes.
just through Instagram, as I'm sure you do, where you're like,
Exactly. Yeah.
we only know each other through the internet.
Yeah. I kind of had so one of my best friends, Tina, I often worked out with her, and I was kind of like, oh, if we're really going to make this a friendship, we kind of have to hang outside of the gym. You have to sort of like cement it. So yeah, we had to go like have dinner or something, so that it was like not just like a gym friendship. It was like we're actually friends. And
Yeah.
again, she's very similar to Kate. She's just so giving. And I think with bodybuilding, if you're really going to dive into it, it's so consuming, time consuming, everything. So you have to really pick and choose where your time is spent. And that comes down to your friendships as well. So I think rather than fostering so many, 20 friendships, you pick a few that you really invest in. And yeah, I think, it's just very, very, very time consuming. So you have to pick them. And I've picked some good friends, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And that's going to be so cool to have that trip with some of them as well and just experience more together, especially within this lifestyle. And I'm curious when you said, you have the friendships, right? But also your work is so different. It's not in the fitness industry. So do you
No.
feel like it's a nice break sometimes, or is that something you're passionate about, IT work? Like, tell me more about that.
Yeah, so I'm a, where do I start? So currently I'm a team lead in engineering at Xero. So Xero is online accounting software. So a lot of people use it. I think even in the States, we have offices in the States as well. So I manage a group of engineers in building software for Xero. It is very, I think, like I said, with the whole time consuming, when I first started competing, I and decided that I wanted to get my pro card or try and aim for my pro card. I had decided, okay, I was happy in my career at the time then. So I started out at Trade Me as a test analyst. So I would test software to ensure it was working before it was put on website out in front of everyone. And at the time when I started competing, I was a senior test analyst. So I was happy for my job to sort of just tick along. Like I was happy where I was at. I was happy doing what I was doing. I was happy with my salary, everything. So I was happy for that to just tick along. I was also looking at, after my first show, I was looking at starting up a side business of selling cakes because I love to bake. But I decided, no, I can do that when I'm 50. Like when my body's not in its prime condition, I can bake cakes. No one's going to worry about what I look like then. So I put that completely like on hold. And I just decided that my main focus would be like my family and competing. Trade Me is such a sought after place to work at, and people stay around for such a long time that partway through that year, a lead role became available, and I was like, it's the first time in 7 years that a lead role has become available. I can't let it up. So I applied and I got it. So my job became a bit more strenuous, I guess, because I was managing people. So it was a learning curve. I was changing from being like a doer where I would test things and release it into production to basically being in meetings all the time and helping other people do the work. So that was really difficult. And then again, as each role went on, each new role that I got became more and more work. I swear a lot of people believe that I don't do a lot because I don't show a lot of what I do on Instagram and things, but I do. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a job. But yeah, so now I work at Xero. I manage a team, and I find it hard. I think sometimes when you work at like such a big IT company and other people around you, their life is their job. It's such an identity. And it is an identity for me, but bodybuilding is a larger identity. So it can be hard to manage my workload and bodybuilding, but I'm very lucky that also within IT, generally people are very flexible with working when you work, when you stop. like I could go to the gym during the day if I wanted to, as long as I make up the hours in the evening, and just things like that. And then I'm in a lot of meetings. So yeah, it's a hard balance, but as long as like I get up in the morning and I do my cardio, I am back for my work, I have my meals done. I work from home predominantly, so it makes it a lot easier that I can do some things during the day, like put my washing on.
Yes.
Sometimes I do meal prep for my partner's children for that night so that, you know, they can just heat it up and I can go to the gym. Just things like that. But it is difficult. And yeah, people don't expect it. People just believe that I am in fitness. But no, you need something to fuel bodybuilding. It's not
Yeah.
cheap. So that's what it is. And I love IT, so it's good.
That's so awesome. And you've been in it for a long time. Sounds like you've had a lot of progression in your career and it's fueling this passion of yours. And you just brought up your partner, and I'm curious how long you guys have been together and the story there.
So he is, he was the head of database at TradeMe. We weren't
Okay.
together then, it was after, but that's where I met him. We've been together 6 or 7 years now, and he has 3 children. One, Caitlin is 18, Amy is 16, and Lucy's 13. So we have them 50% of the time. It's a really odd split, so it's not just like week on, week off, but so we have them 50% of the time. And yeah, I mean, that's generally how we met. He actually kind of got me into bodybuilding because he was into the gym and boxing and bodybuilding. And so during high school, it's like going back
Yeah,
during
let's
high
go.
school, I used to dance 6 times a week.
Wow.
And so I ate a lot. Like after school, I would go to KFC and get like a burger and fries and then go dance for several hours and then like go home. But when I finished high school, I continued to eat like I was dancing all the time, which I was not. So I ended up gaining quite a lot of weight. For myself, I got up to about 80 kgs. And I just one day just noticed, and I was just like, I'm so not happy in how I feel and how I look. And so I started doing the Kayla Estein's BBG guide.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really, really old PDF files.
Yeah.
And I just started cleaning up what I was eating. I was eating salads and things a lot more. And so I ended up losing about 14 kgs over those years. And I was, at that time, Kayla Estein's had now switched to an app, and the app had like different sort of parts to it. So you had more of the body weight exercises, then you had weights at the gym, then you had more powerlifting kind of things. And I'd moved to weights at the gym. And I can remember I was so fixated on getting to a very particular weight, which was 58 kgs. I don't know why I picked that number. It was just a random number. And I was eating salads all the time, but my weight wasn't budging. And so I recognized that that was really unhealthy. And I had decided that I was going to try and switch my focus to a different goal other than a weight. So at that time, Lauren Simpson was really, really massive on Instagram. And I had decided that I wanted to do a bodybuilding show. Originally, I had thought WBFF, but when I found myself a coach, he was like, we're going to do IFBB. I didn't really realize that WBFF wasn't in New Zealand at the time. And on reflection, I definitely could not do WBFF. Like, not only does my body type suit IFBB more, but again, the confidence thing, the way that they pose and the glitz and the glamour is just really even further out from my comfort zone than I'm willing to do. So my partner had suggested me doing it, and so that's how I got into it. So I'm very grateful for that, because it's honestly, I've never had a passion like bodybuilding. Like I like baking cakes and things, but this is just a completely different level of passion. So I love it.
That is so awesome. Oh, that's amazing. And I love that he encouraged you and also that you had really progressed in how you found your way through it and your passion for it and how your goals shifted with you as well. And
Yeah,
when you decided on doing a show and you found the IFBB and you did really well, what was it that made you realize you like it? Was it winning or was it the process?
I definitely think winning helps. Like you can't
Yeah.
say that you didn't enjoy winning. Yeah, I think I just really loved the process. And I think it was that growth aspect as well. This was so much bigger than anything I'd ever done before, and I did it. Like I got up on stage and I somehow managed to win. Like, so yeah, I think it was just, and also again that control comes in. I had control over what I was doing, the eating, and I probably got a dopamine hit every time I ticked something
Yeah.
off. Like I'm like, sweet, I've weighed my food, I've done this,
Yeah.
I've done my posing practice. And yeah, I think the encouragement of others, I can remember, and I can hear it on the video, that when I walk out on stage for the first time as a completely unknown competitor, people were just like, whoa, what is this? Who is this girl? And then I turn around and they see my glutes and they're like, oh my God. But then you also hear them go, why is she so white? Because my coach at the time had recommended me getting a tan elsewhere. So I didn't have a
No.
stage tan. I just basically had a normal tan. So I
No.
looked like, yeah, I looked like a normal pasty white person
Yeah.
on stage compared to everyone. But they got me an emergency tan backstage,
Oh, that was
thankfully.
nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Mo, the NZ IFBB CEO, was like, you need to go get a stage tan right now. So they had to set it all up again.
Oh my
Um,
God.
but I don't think they wouldn't have done that hadn't I been winning, because there was
Right.
another girl on my team who also had the same tan as me and they didn't have her do it. So
Interesting.
um yeah, but yeah, I think that the encouragement of people being like, where did this person come from? She looks incredible. Also definitely helps. Selfishly, I wish it was more like, yeah, I really, really, really love the process, but it was my first time doing it, right? And
Right.
but it was at that point that I decided that I was going to make a go at it. And I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to make a go at it, I'm going to get a coach who knows this better. And so I switched coaches, and then I definitely enjoyed the process more from then. I
That's
wasn't
really
just eating broccoli, rice, and chicken.
right.
Broccoli, yeah, yeah. It changed, so it was good.
Yes. That is really nice. And I think it's cool that you can be like winning helps. And how you said earlier, we strive to win, we strive to succeed. A lot of us do, especially when you've been in it for a while. I think it's hard to argue that it's just for fun. So before we wrap everything up and I ask you for your advice, I want to hear a bit more just about your current journey as you're getting ready to compete at the end of the year. So what are you focusing on right now, and how is that contributing to maybe delivering on feedback or meeting the standards that you're seeing in the US?
So for my feedback after the pro show, I actually sent my photos to Sandy and to Adam from Elite Physique, and I had them tell me, just because they're in the US, they know what they're looking for. I know it's hard because they didn't see me in person and things, but I have more or less gone from feedback from them. which I loved because their feedback was so much more specific than anything I've ever received in New Zealand. So I really, really enjoyed that. And I think that's part of the bodybuilding, is that like it becomes more about those specific things that you can change, rather than you need bigger glutes, you need bigger shoulders. Like I had feedback like, you need your shoulders bigger and your back bigger, but your biceps smaller. Like it was that detail. And that is where the fun comes in, because that really changes how you train and everything. So yeah, the feedback was really great. But leading into this show, I think it's definitely more about having fun, getting the experience of a US show, seeing what it's actually like to compete overseas, seeing where I stack up. And for me, I'm actually going to go and do it after this. I'm actually going to go start really drilling into what I want to focus on. So I had started thinking about it, and it's definitely about leveling up my posing. Like I said, bringing that actual confidence to the stage, and I guess aiming for doing everything that I can, like reflecting back on my previous show, what I could have done better, and trying to bring that. And then I also want to sort of go through and think about things that I want to focus on that aren't necessarily bodybuilding, but I don't want them to drop away while I prep. So time with friends and family, and how I'm going to manage that. But yeah, I think definitely leading into this show, it's definitely just to experience what it is to be competing in the US. So yeah, it's going to be scary.
I love that you're planning it out too. Like you're planning for how to make this a really solid season. You got feedback from people who really know what they're looking for too. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this journey progress for you. And before we get to giving everyone your information, can you give us your best advice? So your best advice for someone who has never competed before but would like to, and then your best advice for someone on their road to pro.
Ooh. For people who haven't yet competed, I really believe that there's so many things. I think that they need to find a good coach that they resonate with. It's not just about finding someone who's really, really great in the industry. You have to get on with them. You have to trust them. Like I literally tell Kurt everything. So yeah, finding a really good coach and beginning the process with them, not like 12 weeks out from your first show, begin earlier than that. Set those healthy patterns, because, so many people now, they get up in the morning, they just go and make a bowl of cereal. They don't really worry about like their protein intake or anything. They might have a sandwich for lunch or, anything. So it is quite a switch to making sure that you're getting appropriate protein at every, time during the day and things like that. So I think setting up those foundations to better serve your body. And if you've got sort of any issues with food, perhaps looking at those first. I can't say that I necessarily did. I don't think I have really bad issues with food now, but I can see that like if you're a binge eater, you need to sort it. You need to sort it before you go and compete, because it will muck with your head or just things like that. So don't wait too long to get on stage either. Like you can't go and be like, I'm going to look like Laurelie Chapados when I step on stage. You're not. You just have to get up there, experience it, learn from it, get the feedback. The feedback is what's going to drive what you do. And also but when you do step on stage, don't worry deeply about the feedback that they do give you. You are being judged on your physique, but that's not you as a person. Just use it to fuel what you do next. Like, it's a goal. You have stuff to work towards. A lot of people don't have a lot of stuff to work towards in a gym. They just go to do a gym workout. But now you've got that specific, like, you've got to grow your glutes, you've got to grow your shoulders. So that changes what you've got to do at the gym. What about, people who are competing? Have fun. It's so much fun, and enjoy that process. If you're not enjoying your food and training, then the show day is not going to be any better. Like, you really have to enjoy everything that you're doing. But also, I think, don't ever take your health for granted. Health is priority, and the longevity of your life is priority. And that includes mental health and physical health. There's really no point in sacrificing either of those things for bodybuilding. So, yeah, just have fun. I don't know. I really don't. I'm not very good at advice.
I thought that was great advice for both. That was awesome. I was just soaking it in. I'm like, keep preaching. That was beautiful.
I'm sure there's a lot more, but
it's every time I ask that question at the end of the episode, I'm like, I don't even believe in a best, but I still pose it that way. Where I'm like, what is there? But throughout the entire episode, when I'm talking to people and even hearing everything you've said, it's like there's so many golden nuggets that come out of it. But I really like what you said here too. And of course, I want people to follow your journey too and see how you continue from here, connect with you, and tag you as they said that they're listening or that they can reach out to you. So how can people connect with you or follow your journey?
Yeah, predominantly on Instagram. So it's Aimee J _IFBB Pro. Yeah, that's it. That's where I basically post everything. And every prep I try to I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do more. I'm gonna try, but we'll see. I think there's like a fine balance between putting in so much effort there and just effort in your prep. So but yeah, Instagram is definitely the way. I have it on Facebook as well, but it's just my Instagram, really.
Awesome. Yeah. I'll put that in the show notes, or I'll have my assistant put in the show notes. So you guys, that's always on celestial.fit/podcast. Not only will you see the link to her Instagram, but you're also going to see a full breakdown of this episode. So a summary of the actual episode. You'll see all the topics we covered in a bulleted list, and you're going to see full episode timestamps. So when you're sharing this with teammates or friends, you can even let them know what to expect or what part you really liked, or you can go back and listen to it again. So thank you guys for tuning in. And Aimee, thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
You are so welcome, and I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you're in the world while you're listening to this episode. Just make it awesome.